Hi, I'm Emily Watson of Whoop Fitness and Wellbeing. Thank you, Caterham Independent, for putting on a second lockdown festival, and I'm really honoured to be involved again. So today I'm going to look at health and wellbeing in this current pandemic. So I created Whoop Fitness and Wellbeing in the light of my psychology and dance fitness background, and I'm really passionate about people loving the bodies they're in, but also having physical and mental health well-being. And so I want to talk about that today, and I really want us to think about how we can reflect on how we're feeling right now. We are surviving a pandemic, and so I want us to really think about how we're surviving, and if we're not, give us tips and reflections to help us survive a bit better. Then I want to look at our New Year's resolutions, and if you had any motivations that have now already gone, and how we can think about that. And then I'm going to end with a breathing exercise, which I'm really looking forward to. So first of all, how are we surviving the pandemic? How are you feeling? How are you coping? This is a really strange situation, and people have you heard the phrase that we're in the same storm but we're in different boats? And it's because we're all dealing with this in different ways. Some people have got children at home that they're homeschooling. Some people are trying to hold down a job, working from home as well, or having their own business. Some people aren't able to work and so are at home unable to work. Some people have got loads of people in the house and can't get time to themselves, whereas other people are on their own and maybe feeling really lonely. And so it's really important to reflect on the fact that this is a storm and that you are in your boat and that it's difficult for you, and it's okay. It's okay to realise that other people are going through something difficult as well, but don't belittle what you're going through. And so I really want to encourage you to think about how you can be proactive rather than reactive in looking after our mental health and well-being. So in terms of your mental health, are you being kind to yourself? Are you giving yourself some slack and giving yourself time to breathe? We're so often really negative to ourselves, and it's easy to listen to that inner critic voice that's inside our heads. So in psychology, it's called self-talk, and it's okay if you talk to yourself. You're not going completely mad. It's a totally normal thing. And we generally have an inner critic, which is really negative and says really horrible things. And sometimes it's stuff that you wouldn't even say to your worst enemy, but you're saying over yourself. And then you have an inner cheerleader, which is just that, someone that's it's a little voice that's rooting you on. And unfortunately, we listen to that inner critic much more easily, and it talks to us much more. So I really want to encourage you, particularly when you notice you're saying shoulds and musts and negative things over yourselves. I want to encourage all of us to note that, reflect that, reword those self-talk comments over us, reword them, and then refocus our thoughts. So that's what I want to encourage us to do: reflect, reword, refocus. So try and think and notice when you're saying horrible things over yourself, and just stop and think. Take a deep breath. Notice that you're being negative, and notice that you would never say that to someone else. So why say it to yourself? Are you looking after your emotions? How are you feeling? Are you talking to your friends and loved ones about how you're feeling? So sometimes we can bottle up our emotions and keep them inside, and actually it's a bit like putting a Mento in a Coke bottle and putting the lid on and tightening it up. At some point it is going to explode. And so rather than doing that, find time to sit with your emotions. Find time to talk through with your loved ones about how you're feeling. It's really important to do that rather than letting your emotions take over. And sometimes we do have control over our emotions, and we can talk ourselves down. And again, it's about being proactive rather than reactive, because if we're being reactive, we'll get to that stage where we're so overwhelmed with our emotions we just can't deal with it, can we? So I just want to give us some tips, because I don't know about you, but my emotions are all over the place at the moment. One minute I'm anxious and overwhelmed, then I'm feeling really determined and hopeful, and then I'm crumpled on the floor, deflated and crying again. So whatever boat you're in this storm, I want you to think about things that help you. So I'm going to give you a few tips, but I would love it if you would write down, have a little brainstorm, write down things that help you specifically. So the first thing I want to encourage you to do is take each day at a time. So rather than think about the whole month or even the whole week, let's think about each day, and maybe even each hour, each minute at a time. Take one step at a time. Get up, breathe, decide what you can and can't do. Decide what you want to do. Decide what you have to do, but how you can make that a little bit easier to do. Then I want to encourage us to think about things that we are grateful for. It's really easy in this kind of time to just think about the doom and gloom and all the negative and all the stuff we're overwhelmed with and struggling with. But sometimes we need to just sit back and think about what we're grateful for. And not in I'm so much better off than other people, I should be feeling okay way, because that's another should and a negative thing that's putting on you. But in a way of those things that make you feel grateful, that warm your heart, the people and the things that are around you. And remembering what you can do rather than what you can't do. And then my third tip is finding something to help you relax. So whether that's mindfulness or meditation, prayer, going for a walk and really being mindful about what's around you. And later on I'm going to do a breathing exercise with you, and I really hope that helps too. So as you think about these things, also write down what well-being and what self-care means to you, because this means different things to different people. So I'm not going to go into specifics now. I just wanted to give you those 3 tips, because well-being means different things to different people, and you will be able to brainstorm much better than me telling you what to do. And if you want to do something, you're more likely to do it. So we thought about how we can be more balanced and think about our mental health and our emotional health. So now I want to think about your physical health, which relates to our mental health as well. So are you getting a release? Are you going outside every day? Are you getting outside in daylight hours? Or are you sitting at a desk all day and then going out, or only being able to stop work when it's dark? The first lockdown, there was sun, it felt a bit more hopeful, and this time the weather is so much darker and colder, it can be easy just to feel like you want to snuggle in, and that's got its place. But if you snuggle in your pyjamas and stay inside all day every day, it's just not going to be helpful. So I really want to encourage you to get some daylight. So at best, that's going out for a walk or a run, or going out with exercise with one other person, which you're allowed to do, and getting your face outside. But if you can't do that, I want to encourage you to move your computer to somewhere where there's more light. And some days there is a bit of sun, which is great, so you can maybe go somewhere where you catch some of that sun. But even if you can't get the sun, just being in a place where you're by a window so you can get a bit of light in is going to be so much more helpful. Also, are you doing something active that you enjoy? Now, once again, we're all different, and so for me, obviously, I love dancing, and I find that that's a massive release. But you need to find, I don't want to put need on you, but it's helpful to find something that you can do that you enjoy. There is no point saying that you're going to learn to run a marathon if you hate running. Okay, for some people actually they'd love that because they're going to learn a new skill and they hate running at the beginning, but then they get better and better and stronger. But if you start and hate it, you're not going to want to do it again. So it's about finding something that you really enjoy, that you want to do, and doing that will help you when you're feeling low in motivation and it's feeling dark and you don't want to go out because it's dark and cold. So find something that you enjoy, and whether that's inside or outside, find something that gets your heart racing. And I promise you, there's so much evidence to suggest that being active increases our endorphins and actually helps our mental health as well as our physical health. I also want to encourage you to think about whether you're getting enough sleep and enough rest. Again, this is really important. And getting enough sleep not only helps with your mental health, it helps with your physical health. It helps it helps you cope with things. It helps with your diet, because if you've slept well, you're much more likely to eat more healthy foods rather than those sweet, quick carb and sweet, quick energy foods. So think about whether you're sleeping well. And there are so many amazing apps that can calm you down before you go to bed. There are so many tips on the internet about maybe taking your phone out your room or turning off all electronics at least an hour before bed. And I'm not going to sit here and say I do all these things, but I'm going to try and practice what I preach, and that's what I'm about. And I'm not sitting here saying to you that I've got all these things sorted out, I promise. So we've looked at thinking about our survival during this time, and I just really want to encourage you to take 5 minutes to maybe brainstorm some ideas, but really think, because sometimes we're so busy trying to run around and look after everyone or work or do things that we don't have time for ourselves. So really take 5 minutes to have a little think now. The next thing I want to talk about is your New Year motivations. So whether you call them New Year's resolutions or plans or goals, whatever those things were that in January you thought, yep, this is it, I'm going to do this differently, or I'm going to change this. Let's think about those now, and how have they gone? Whether you're doing it and it's doing really well, or whether they've got lost out the window by the 2nd of January. That's okay. And I just want us to think about these things for a little while. So it's really funny, isn't it, that a new year, or when you've just watched something really inspirational, or you've been travelling, or there are certain massive life events that kind of give us that motivation, that inspiration to do something, to change things or try something new. And then so often old habits creep back in and we forget those things. And I want to encourage you to reflect on those things that you thought about early January or late December that you were going to do this year. What's gone well? What have you enjoyed? What was realistic and enjoyable that you can continue to do? Have a little think now. And then I want you to think about the things that haven't gone so well. And first of all, I want to encourage you and remind you that we are living in a pandemic. So don't worry. I want to tell you that the beginning of the year I had loads of exciting plans for my business. I'd done this new timetable of how I was going to work, and then they shut the schools. And so my little girl is at home and I'm homeschooling, and a lot, if not all of it, went out the window. And I found that really hard. I felt like I'd lost my freedom. I felt like someone had taken those plans away from me. So I just want to encourage you and say, if that's how you feel, it's not okay, but it is okay. And if you need to overhaul your plans and completely refocus and change them and think, okay, I need to put that over there till later on in the year, or after we've sorted ourselves out, then that's okay. If you're homeschooling or taking care of someone who's shielding or sick, or that you've just got more people at home, or you're just not coping with the fact that you're still working from home, that's okay. And just reflect on whether you need to give yourself more time for self-care, or more time, as we discussed earlier, about getting yourself outside. And think about whether those plans just needed to be delayed, and that's okay. The second thing I want to encourage you is, if they haven't gone so well, those plans, is I want to encourage you to think about whether they were smart. Now, in the psychology world, we talk about SMART goals. So that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. It's really important that when you set goals, they're smart, because otherwise we're going to set ourselves up for failure. If you set goals that are short-term, that are really realistic, that are enjoyable, things that you want to do and aren't too far-fetched, then you will achieve those little goals, and it will make you feel so much more confident for those bigger, more long-term goals. So reflect on the things you thought about in end of December, beginning of January, that you were going to do this year, and think about whether they were smart. Because if they weren't realistic, then it's okay that you didn't achieve them. It's all right. The next thing I want you to think about is whether they linked with your priorities. Because actually sometimes we can set goals, but then they don't link with our priorities. And so actually we're either putting all of our effort into something that isn't going to work, or we're just putting our effort into the wrong things. Or you might feel like you should be doing one thing, but you want to do something else. So it's really important to think about these three things. One, did your New Year's resolutions not work out because of the pandemic and things out of your control? Two, were your goals not smart, and so do you need to rethink them? And three, did they link with your priorities or not? Because if they didn't, then actually it might be that you're just going towards the wrong thing. Someone told me the other week that instead of New Year's resolutions, they thought about using one word for their year. And it helped them to see things in a much more positive light. And it helped them to have less pressure on themselves. And then it also meant that everything that they were doing, they just reflected back on that word to see if it fit with their word. So for example, if your word was peace, you need to think about, is taking that extra piece of work on going to give you peace, or is it going to give you stress? Is making that little bit of extra money, is it going to fit with your priority of peace or not? Is doing that job that way going to give you peace or not? Is going for the run right now, this time, right now, is it going to give you peace? Or is actually it going to be more peaceful if you clean the kitchen or if you do something else? So again, I don't want to give you too many examples because we're all so different. So I just want to encourage you to think about your New Year's resolutions and think about what worked and what didn't work in a new light. Rather than thinking that you're a failure because anything went wrong, you are not a failure. Just reword. So again, go back to that. Reflect, reword and refocus. So the last thing I want us to think about today is doing a mindfulness breathing exercise. So I don't know about you, but I love mindfulness because it really helps me to focus my thoughts and just close off everything else. Someone once told me this imagery about there are two kinds of people, and one kind of person, me, their mind is a bit like their loft, and they have loads of boxes. And one minute they're looking in one box, then they're looking at another box, and one box has lots of boxes in it, and one box has got things spewing out and it's into the other box, and there's just boxes everywhere. And that's how my thoughts are. That's where they go. And then there are other people, like my husband, who go to their box, they open a box, they look in it, they close it, they push it away, and then they get the next box, they open it and they look in it. And they can even have a box that's empty. It's completely empty. Now this blows my mind because I don't have a mind like this at all. And so mindfulness and breathing exercises really help me because I don't have a mind like that. So I'd love to do a breathing exercise with you now. So I'd like you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so, or just stare at something where you're not going to get distracted, and get comfortable. Wiggle your shoulders and your toes and get really comfortable. And I want to encourage you that in all kinds of mindfulness or prayer or meditation exercises, if your mind wanders, that's okay, that's totally natural, and it's just about recognising that, noticing it and bringing your mind back onto the thing that you're listening to or looking at. So I want to encourage you to listen to my voice, and if your mind wanders, that's okay. Just focus back on my voice when you remember. So close your eyes and imagine you're in your happy place, a happy, peaceful place, and visualise it in your mind. So maybe you're on a beach, or on the top of a mountain, or in a meadow. Imagine you're in that happy place now, and get fully immersed in your happy place. What can you see? Look around you, see what's near you and what's far into the distance. Look at what's under your feet and see everything that's around you. And then what can you feel? Can you feel the sun on your face? Can you feel a gentle breeze? Is it raining? Can you feel the rain dripping down your face? What can you feel in your happy place? What can you hear? Can you hear the waves of the sea? Can you hear insects flapping? Can you hear laughter? Can you hear birds? And then what can you smell? Can you smell the salt from the sea, or freshly cut grass, or flowers? I want you to breathe in naturally. Breathe in and out. Don't force your breathing, but be mindful that you're breathing in and out. As you breathe in, imagine that your lungs are being filled with those beautiful smells and beautiful feelings and all the good things of joy and peace. And as you breathe out, imagine that you're blowing out all the negativity, all the fear and anxiety, all the stress, all the depression or sadness, all those negative thoughts. Breathe them out. I want you to try and put a colour to your breath. So as you breathe in, imagine a beautiful colour, and you're breathing in, and it's going to every single inch of your body and immersing your body in that good colour. And as you breathe out, all the negativity is coming out of your body as a colour, and it's being blown out of your body and dispersing into the air around you. So fully be immersed in that place, in your breathing. Breathing in that good colour and breathing out all the negative. So it comes to the point where all the negative colour is not in your body at all anymore. Your body is just full of that good colour. And notice that your shoulders feel lighter and your head feels lighter. Notice that that burden in your stomach has gone. Give your toes a wiggle and notice that your feet feel relaxed. Maybe if you're in a beach, feel the sand in between your toes. Or if you're in a meadow, feel the grass under your feet and feel grounded where you are. Know that you're safe and secure in this happy place. Take a few more deep breaths in and out. Breathing in the good and breathing out the bad. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Give your body a little shake, a little wiggle. Welcome back. I really hope you enjoyed that. I really love a bit of mindfulness. So So thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed that. I want to encourage you to keep reflecting on your thoughts and your emotions. I want to encourage you to look after yourself. So often we want to look after everybody else, but remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. We don't run our car without petrol. We don't expect our children to run around on empty stomachs. And so we need to look after ourselves so that we can look after other people. Guys, we are surviving a pandemic and you're doing really, really, really well. So I want to encourage you to remember the good things that you're doing. Stay safe and healthy, look after yourselves, and I really hope you enjoy this awesome lockdown festival. Take care. Bye.